So today I'm in my bedroom filming this because the garage is far too cold. But anyway, on to the actual intro. I remember just a few years ago, the GPD XD came out and it was completely out of my budget, but it looks like since many more devices like it have been coming out, they've had to bring that price down and go as far as price it below $200. I think I got this one for somewhere around $180. Now this works out very well for me because now I can actually afford to buy it and actually talk about it. So this is going to be my review of the GPD XD Plus and how does this portable emulator or retro handheld hold up almost 5 years after its release. Well, let's go ahead and dive right in. And before we continue, don't forget to follow me on both Twitch and on Instagram. I will be streaming on Twitch fairly often, so I really don't want you to miss out on that. Also, why not go ahead and pledge over to the Patreon if you would like to support us? There are going to be monthly giveaways for members as a way of giving back. And then lastly, now do make sure to join the Discord because there are plenty of cool people over there. And subscribe, like this video, of course, for the usual if you end up liking it. Now on to the video. The exterior design consists of plastic, but this is actually a pretty hefty device. It's got some weight to it, which does make it feel more premium than it really is. And now the shell itself also has this metallic coating that helps a lot in selling you on the idea that you're buying something that's higher end. This device has a clamshell design almost completely mimicking the one from the 3DS XL, and I have to say that I like it. However, on the top, things are going to be very bare bones actually, with zero branding of any kind around here, and then on the bottom, or on the back I should say, there's just going to be a back plate. So this device is barely pocketable, but not so much for me because I'm on the shorter side of thing. But if you can pocket a 3DS XL, then you can definitely pocket this device as well. Now on the inside, when you open it up, you're going to find your usual controls with double analog sticks that do not click down, but the L3 and R3 functionality are still going to be built onto two other buttons right next to them. And you're also going to get your usual controls for most other consoles, with the Xbox layout in particular being the one that they favored most here, which I can appreciate. You will also get controls for navigating Android a bit more easily with a back button and home button, but you also get volume controls up top, sleep wake button in the middle, and multitasking button, as well as a visual controller scheme that can be used in order to rearrange the button schemes for different mobile games and even for different emulators, which is something that I really appreciate. Now on top, you're going to get your triggers and bumpers, a headphone jack, a mini HDMI port, a micro USB port, and a micro SD card slot for storage expansion. Now I do like this button's layout, to be honest, because everything that's necessary feels easy to reach, but some of the navigation buttons here are maybe just a little more difficult to get to, I would say, like once you get an actual grip on it. So it's not really the most ergonomic design that I've seen out there, but it is still pretty good, even for someone with small hands like myself. So this device features a 1280 by 720 IPS display that is touch sensitive, so that is going to be really good when it comes to navigating Android. Now the colors are great, but this screen doesn't really get that bright, so that's definitely worth noting, as perhaps on a sunny day you might have trouble seeing what's actually going on. But besides that, games look really nice on this display, and the colors do actually pop enough to give a sensation of vibrancy. Now it is a nice screen that's fairly responsive with the controls, but it's also a fingerprint magnet due to how glossy it is. But I like it, and I would say that this display is one that has aged pretty well over the past 4.5 years, almost 5. Now the speakers are pretty good. We get a dual front facing pair over here, so they are positioned in a good spot, and from my experience I don't really end up blocking them with my hands like others do since I have smaller hands. So I personally don't really have any complaints about the speakers. I think that they get pretty loud and they sound pretty good. Have a listen.
No, I have to make it. What? Abomination. Intervene and be slain. I can take you on if you wish. Shine! Prepare. This is it.
In terms of specs, we do have a more powerful handheld than what you will find in a good chunk of the market at this price. It consists actually of an RK3288 CPU with a Mali T764 GPU, 2GB of RAM, 64GB of internal storage, but this is expandable through the micro SD card slot as I mentioned earlier. So like I said, we do have a more powerful device than the RK3266 that we are so used to seeing at this point. Like they've been popping up just about everywhere from Ambernick, Powkitty, Retroid, and so many other companies. So the system comes with a rather unpleasant OS launcher that I think is just called Emulator installed that is sectioned off in 4 different categories. This is running on Android 7, so this system is running an outdated version of Android, but things can feel much nicer if you install the ATV launcher to put those styles into a more sensible order. Since it's Android, it is already very easy to navigate with the touchscreen, but some functions are reassigned to some of the buttons on this device, so you probably won't really be going touch for the entire time at least, though it is for the most part navigatable, if that's not a word. However, you do unfortunately still get some bloatware, but nothing really too bad in my opinion. So now we're going to talk about performance, and in particular it's going to be emulation performance in a variety of different systems, beginning with Dreamcast on the Redream emulator. So performance is going to be very nice here, and yes, my metric comes from the only Dreamcast game that I care about, which is Sonic Adventure 2, but this one is also a good one to test to determine if most games can run alright. And this game ran beautifully with little to no audio stutters and remained at a consistent frame rate of about 30 FPS-ish. I enjoyed my experience playing this game here since I was able to boost the resolution and still get great performance, so you can rely on getting great Dreamcast emulation through this device, which is always going to be a great thing. So performance in PPSSPP is very good too, as well as I can upscale most games to 2x resolution, but some will start to stutter every now and then, so performance isn't really perfect, but even at 1x resolution, you still get very good performance, and it's certainly less taxing on your hardware. With games like Dissidia, Crisis Core, and some turn-based games like Final Fantasy 4, 2, 3, etc. will run very well on this machine. I would also argue that this is a great way of experiencing some of the older Persona games like Persona 1, 2, and 3 portable. So I would definitely pick something like this up for emulating PSP, as the aspect ratio is also a great one for this particular system. So Nintendo 64 was also very good here. Not too much to say on the matter, quite frankly, but there were some graphical glitches that I noticed from time to time. It could have just been because of the emulator that I used, but performance won't be perfect for every single game. However, if you want to play the classics such as Ocarina of Time or Mario 64, then the system will absolutely crush those games, even at an upscaled resolution. Like, for instance, if you wanted to do 2x resolution to have Super Mario 64 look way better, then honestly, this is going to be a fantastic handheld for just that. But this should be able to handle it without any kind of issues whatsoever. But those were just some of my own experiences trying to emulate this system on this device. So Game Boy Advance is probably somewhat pointless to mention, because if this device can perform well with the other systems I mentioned, then GBA should be no problem, and it certainly isn't one at all. Have fun upscaling your games to 4x resolution if need be, and still get pretty smooth gameplay with a much crisper image. You can enjoy all of your older Pokemon games here, as well as some of the action titles, so I do think that there is going to be quite a lot on the GBA side of things here. So now I'm going to try to push the system to run Gamecube, or at least I did try, just to see what it can do. And it manages, but barely from my experiences. Honestly, it does have a lot of glitches, even with something like Sonic Adventure 2, which here is going to be very slow, running at around 15 frames per second and dipping even lower. And that was even the case when it came to Super Smash Bros., Twilight Princess, and the likes. Also, the sound was definitely affected by this, so I wouldn't really consider this to be necessarily playable, at least not from my experiences. So when it comes to Android games specifically, since this is an Android device, this can definitely run quite well. Now, something like Honkai Impact will run pretty well, minus some stutters here and there, but there's also a graphical glitch involving the face and sometimes even parts of the body that could be due to a few things, but it is worth considering that this machine is running an outdated version of Android, so I wouldn't really get it for playing Android games, especially not at this price range personally. But if you wanted to do some game streaming, then you've got a decent device. It doesn't really support 5 gigahertz, but it does at least manage with 2.4 gigahertz, and I can stream fine for the most part. So battery life is still going to be quite good with this device, running at around 6 hours of gameplay from my estimates, I want to say, so it's nothing to complain about really. It's actually pretty good, but this performance is mostly from playing lightweight games like GBA and SNES, which by the way, I know that I didn't really talk about it much, but SNES is ran beautifully on the system, and I wouldn't really say much more than that. So this has been a pretty long video about a device that is still really nice in 2022, and honestly, if you want a clamshell retro handheld, then this is going to be a great option to consider because it has aged so well over the years. I really like this device for emulation since it can emulate so many systems so well, and the screen is still very good, honestly. It's comfortable to use, but I do wish that it had clickable analog sticks instead of separate L3 and R3 buttons, so that is going to be the one thing that I really miss having here in terms of hardware. But when I eventually review the Powkiddy X18S, which I did show off in some of the shots here in this video, I'm sure that I will have even more to say in that regard. You should consider this machine as an emulator, but not so much for Android gaming, because honestly, I would argue that the out-of-date OS is holding back this device quite severely when it comes to being able to run Android games properly, or at the very least more modern Android games, the way that they're meant to be played. So I wouldn't really buy this for Android, but I would absolutely buy it for using emulators with it. So yeah, honestly, strongly recommend it on this device. So thank you so much for watching this video up until the very end. I do very much appreciate it. Now, if you are interested in getting this device from GPD, I'm going to be leaving an affiliate link down to Amazon in the description. If you would rather finance it, by the way, there's going to be a way to just like pay for it a little bit more slowly through ABUNDA. So I'm going to be leaving a link to that down below too. No credit card of your own required, so why not go ahead and give it a go. I would also love to give a very special thanks to all of our patrons, beginning with the tier 3, which are going to be Aaliyah, Saara Wazal, and Omar. Thank you so much for all of your support because it really does go a very long way. Now, onto the rest of the patrons coming right up. And this is super important. I would just like to give a very special thanks to all of our patrons, which are going to be listed right here on the screen. Again, a massive thanks to you all for supporting us to help us create the kind of content that we bring to you on a day-to-day basis. And thank you so much for supporting the Tech Summit podcast as well. And just remember that if you would like to be a part of this community too, and then do make sure to check out the links to our Patreon, where you don't only get bonus episodes of our podcast, but you also get automatically entered into one of our monthly giveaways of a tech product that we have reviewed that is of at least $50 in value or higher. So links to that down below. So don't forget to follow me on Instagram and on Twitch, where I do stream fairly often, usually on weekends, which is where you can find me and ask questions live. So with that said, this has been Francisco from Tech Summit. Thank you for watching, and I will be seeing you all later. Enjoy.